Hello, I'm Kimberlie Acosta, and welcome to the Native News Update on Friday, October 22nd. Many of the stories you hear here can be found at our website, IndianCountryNews.com. And here's the news for the day from the Associated Press and other Native news sources. The state's largest Alaska Native group has endorsed Senator Lisa Murkowski in her write-in bid in the Alaska Senate race. The endorsement from the Alaska Federation of Natives follows Murkowski's address to their conference in Fairbanks. The Federation has a membership that includes regional Native corporations. A PAC formed by many of the corporations called Alaska's Standing Together has reported spending more than $1 million in backing Murkowski. Her GOP rival, Joe Miller, has filed a complaint with the Federal Election Commission, calling the PAC a PR front group for Murkowski and claiming that some of the contracts corporations obtained came from funding requests that Murkowski's made. The Democrat in the race is Scott Adams. A newly appointed Vermont Commission on Native American Affairs is meeting in what officials say is a step towards creating a system of recognizing Indian tribes in the state. A new state law created a process for the commission to recommend tribal recognition, which the Abenaki hope will allow them to sell their crafts as Native American and seek federal funding for education and other benefits. The law is intended to address the shortcomings of a bill passed in 2006 that created the commission and recognized the Abenaki as a minority population in Vermont, but failed to allow them to label their crafts as Native American. It has been 20 years since his body was found in Rapid Creek in Rapid City, South Dakota. For the family of Irving Audiss Jr. and local authorities, his death remains an unsolved mystery. He was a good guy, said Frances Audiss, recalling her eldest of her 8 children. Frances and Irving Audiss Sr. can vividly recall the morning a Pennington County Sheriff deputy brought them the news that their son was dead, but Frances remembers little of the following week. Irving Audiss Jr.'s body was found in the creek behind the tennis court on the morning of October 15, 1990. The Rapid City Police file on his death is still open. His case is considered an unsolved death investigation. Audiss died several years before a string of deaths along the creek in the 1990s. An autopsy could not confirm a cause of death, according to Captain Deb Caddy, who recently reviewed the Audiss file. A department investigator revisited the cold case file as the anniversary of his death approached. What investigators do know is that Audiss was drinking heavily that night, and so were many of the people that he was with, which might have hindered the investigation. Her son was not perfect, his mother had said. Frances Audiss spoke frankly about it recently while sitting in the cozy kitchen of the Audiss home in the Lakota Homes housing development. It's the same house that the couple occupied when their son died. Whatever his imperfections, Irving was her firstborn. The pain of his loss is always with her. Teachers opposed to a new Arizona law that targets a school district's ethnic studies program are suing to overturn the measure. KGUN-TV says the lawsuit names outgoing Arizona School Superintendent Tom Horn and the State Board of Education as defendants. The Tucson Unified School District program offers specialized courses in African American, Mexican American, and Native American studies. Horn, who is running for Attorney General, says the district's Mexican American Studies program teaches Latino students that they are oppressed by white people. Horn pushed for the law that was signed by Governor Jan Brewer in May. The measure prohibits classes that advocate ethnic solidarity or that promote resentment toward a certain ethnic group. The new chairman of the Mohegan Tribal Council says keeping the tribe's Connecticut casino competitive and moving forward on a Western Massachusetts casino project are among his priorities. Bruce Two Dogs Bossum told the Day of New London after his recent election that the economy makes every day a challenge. He says that the tribe is facing competition from proposed expanded gambling opportunities in New York and Rhode Island. Bossum, who lives in South Kingston, Rhode Island, says the tribe remains committed to pursuing a casino project in Palmer, Massachusetts, where it has an option to buy property for a smaller version of the Mohegan Sun. The 50-year-old Bossum was previously chairman from 2005 to 2009 and says he's comfortable in the position. The bones of 144 American Indian ancestors will find their final resting place during Native American Heritage Month in November. Central Michigan University and the Saginaw Chippewa tribe have collaborated to return the remains and burial objects to the tribe. They are currently located at the Museum of Cultural and Natural History in Rowe Hall. The remains were originally donated to CMU by various people, but are being returned under the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act, a federal law which was passed in 1990. On November 3rd, the procession of moving the ancestors will begin with a repatriation roundtable at the Charles V. Park Library Auditorium. The next day, a 6-mile Walk Them Home procession will begin. CMU, the Zebra Wing Center, and the tribe will bring the bones to their resting place at the Nibokan Ancestral Cemetery. On November 5th, a Returning to the Earth ceremony for the ancestors and their burial objects will be held at the Ancestral Cemetery. Following the ceremony, the Zebra Wing Center will host a spirit feast. Wisconsin State Senator Bob Jauch visited the Lac Courte Oreilles Ojibwe Reservation to announce funding for another portion of the non-motorized bike and pedestrian trail that will connect Hayward, Wisconsin to the reservation school and tribal office complex some 11 miles away.
Well, Taylor and members of the council, elders and members of the community, particularly want to note Hal Helwig, County Board Chair, who has worked so hard in this community to cooperate with tribal leaders on the Lac Courte Oreilles for joint projects. And for years I have always cited the community relationship in Sawyer County as an example for the rest of the state on how people can work together to solve common problems. So I particularly want to note Hal's leadership and the council's willingness to work cooperatively with them. I do have some good news that I wanted to share with you today regarding the announcement of a bike trail, the funding for the bike trail. But I want to explain the process. 2 years ago, I was appointed to the Transportation Enhancement Project Advisory Committee. It is a 14-person committee that reviews applications for bike trails, historical renovations, and downtown development improvements, streetscape projects. And it was 2 years ago that we were very successful in obtaining funding to complete phase 2 of the Sawyer County, the County Highway B project. And I'm so very pleased to announce that the committee strongly recommended, the Secretary has approved and recommended, that the County Highway B Phase 3 project would be funded with $462,000.
And that's the latest roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Native News Update. I'd like to thank you for joining me and have a grand day.